Hi again, this is another episode from Bambergate, which is the channel that deals with the framing of Jeremy Bamber and whether or not Essex Police and the government are going to admit it, looks at certain aspects of the case and hopefully helps you understand the circumstances in which Essex Police framed Jeremy and the circumstances in which a government and a police force might move towards a resolution of that situation. This episode I'm going to talk about Julie Mugford. Over the years I've made numerous attempts to contact her and her family and her husband. I stopped at her kids because at the time that I was doing most of my efforts to contact her kids were below a certain age, and other actions that I've done. I'm going to talk about her circumstances, I'm going to talk about the relevance to the case, and I'm going to probably give you a different perspective on Julie Mugford because, as you probably well know, she's a strongly sort of hate figure. Okay, so Julie Mugford, I suppose the most important thing that I would describe about Julie Mugford is a critical part that she played in the conviction of Jeremy. So Jeremy obviously received a 10-2 jury conviction. Had one other jury member voted not guilty, he wouldn't be convicted. And I believe, I know you may disagree with this, that Julie Mugford's testimony was critical in that conviction. In other words, if the police didn't have Julie Mugford on their side, they never would have received a conviction of Jeremy. And obviously you know, if you've read her statement, that it was proven that there was no hitman, and other aspects of her testimony were proven to be wrong, and the other aspects of her testimony, there was nothing in there that could be proven that they were correct. In other words, it's simply her word against his. So, you know, I think most people are aware of that, and they're certainly aware that she received a large sum of money, she received immunity from prosecution, and she received a deal with, I think it was News of the World. So this wasn't given to the jury, so that's why I feel that had all that information been given, they wouldn't have got a conviction of Jeremy. So over the years, as I said, I've tried to contact Julie Mugford because she's a living witness and she always has the opportunity to tell the truth. But what I want to do is try and explain things from a different perspective. And I want to put, if you can, try and wipe your mind a bit of opinion and look at it from her circumstances with events. Now, Julie Mugford wasn't very old very then. She was studying to be a teacher, and obviously she was Jeremy's girlfriend, and Jeremy called her in the day when he finished his work, and it was the first person he called after receiving the call from his dad. So obviously Essex Police were pursuing Jeremy for a conviction, a very serious conviction, you know, that of 5 murders, and Julie Mugford would have been in the position potentially to also be charged with an accessory for murder. You know, obviously if she's saying that Jeremy's told her that he's planning to do this and she hadn't done anything about it, then, you know, I'm sure Julie Mugford would have been aware of this. There's also the additional theft that she was involved with Jeremy, and there was a separate cheque fraud that she was involved with her friend Susan. So my perspective on Julie Mugford, you know, is that with those main sort of facts, the police needed her and effectively managed Julie Mugford in a way to get the witness statement that they wanted from her. In other words, it wasn't a case of Julie Mugford giving a statement of her own free will. She was effectively cornered and coerced with serious consequences, because obviously, you know, they certainly weren't able to get a conviction, and with, you know, so, you know, sort of stick and carrot, you know, if you don't do this, Julie Mugford, you know, you're going to get convicted for cheque fraud, you're going to get convicted for theft with Jeremy, and hey, we can put you on the conviction list as well for 5 murders. You know, maybe we don't get a conviction of you, but let's be honest, you know, your career path is destroyed. And on then the other side of this negotiation, we've got some, you know, a nice big carrot here. We've got a lot of money. We've got immunity from prosecution, and, you know, we can help you
get rid of the cheque fraud and things like that. And there's even a deal with the newspaper, which is a part of the large sum of money. One of the things that I do feel is misrepresented, people don't quite understand, is really how much money Julie Mugford was given in those days. It's often quoted at £20,000, which is a fair amount of money. But you also have to remember, I'm a qualified financial advisor and financial planner. If you take, Julie Mugford brought an apartment with the money, or part of the money, and if you use the property index in the UK to today, a 20,000 investment would more be, in today's terms, about 200 to 250,000. So I always like to refer it as in today's terms, 200,000 or more. And I think, with obviously that type of carrot and those type of sticks, it was a fairly persuasive situation, or very powerful situation, that I believe it was Stan Jones doing the negotiating, had a young person in, and I believe she yielded under that sort of pressure. I think, from what I understand to have happened, is the final part of the squeeze on Julie Mugford was her friend. Now, her friend obviously was not Jeremy's girlfriend. She was not really a part of what happening, but that was Susan, who had engaged in the cheque fraud with Julie Mugford. And she was also at risk of being convicted for that, and I believe that was used as a lever whilst they were held at the police training ground to really apply a lot of pressure. Julie Mugford, you might not believe these things, but if you don't, we're going to have to also convict your friend. And at that point they were saying to your friend, we don't want to have to convict you, but can you have a word with your friend? Julie Mugford here, she's not making the right decision. And using a number of other techniques, I think the police were able to be successful in their management of her as a witness, in terms of giving them what they want. I think it's what she said is entirely manufactured, and I believe to this very day that she presents a great risk to the case that she is still able to talk. Hence the reason why I made some quite concerted efforts over a number of years to contact her and to try and encourage her that that might not be a sustainable position. In fact, I can almost repeat word for word what I've always said to the officers and the witnesses that I've contacted, is that if Jeremy ever wins his freedom, it's like a drowning man trying to make his way to the bank. And if that person successfully gets to the bank unaided, other people might think that you let that person drown. So I would expect that hopefully, maybe even this video gets as far as Julie Mugford. I'm deliberately using her maiden name there, by the way, and her family and her kids, and her husband, Glenn. And obviously, I do understand that she has immunity from prosecution. But of course, that immunity from prosecution, as I've made other police officers aware, gives you no protection from the opinion of your family or your kids or yourself. That immunity is very much just from a legal point of view. It doesn't help defend your actions in terms of your family relationships. Hence the reason why I urge people to, whilst they can, help somebody before they fix events by maybe succeeding in Jeremy, winning his own freedom. So, I would say that as directly an invitation to Julie Mugford or anybody close to Julie Mugford, think again. It's definitely not a threat. As I say, my perception is that Julie Mugford is a misunderstood witness in the case, and a great deal of the animosity to Julie Mugford is not valid at all. I think, even to the point that if I was in her situation with that type of pressure and that type of choices put on me or pursued on me, I think I probably would also have made the same decision. And I don't think that it's a coincidence that she ended up on the other side of the world. And obviously, even today, although she's far away from things, there's a great deal of her family members who still live in Essex. So there is still a great deal of leverage or pressure on Julie Mugford. And that's one of my things. If you want to find solutions in the case, it's important to understand exactly the situation of the critical people, and maybe to put it bluntly, not to attack people without good reason. And over the years, you begin to understand a bit more of the subtleties of the case and the actions of the officers and things. And I think Julie Mugford is definitely one of those people whose actions at the time of the trial are greatly misunderstood. And I think it would do everybody a lot of good in terms of being a little bit more compassionate and a bit more understanding, and realising that the circumstances in which she gave her witness statement were not necessarily made so much from choice. It's very easy to look in hindsight and say, oh, that's terrible, you wouldn't do that. But I think if you really put yourself in her shoes, I don't have a confidence that many other people would have had the strength and the ability to resist that type of pressure. I'm pretty sure at her age, when she made the statement, I also would not have had the ability to resist the pressures involved. So hopefully that was useful. Hopefully it maybe moves things forward, and hopefully it reduces people's misunderstanding to Julie Mugford's role in the case. Rather than just being a bit critical, maybe we can be a bit more constructive and a bit more understanding. And ultimately, if any of the witnesses, Susan's husband, Douglas, Dale, anybody who knows particularly the circumstances, wants to speak out before it's too late, I'm sure that would be more favourable to Jeremy, obviously, but I think particularly it would be more favourable to you, because ultimately, at the end of the day, when I suppose I look at it, like myself, when I eventually rest my head for the final time and it's my last day, I'll be able to look back and say, well, yeah, I didn't walk away from Jeremy in his situation and things like that. And I think that might be important in other people's lives, and certainly if you are the children of key people, you might not think that you have much of a part to play, but I'm sure, as time goes on, you will understand that, this is a very important case, and it's not going to go to sleep, it's not going to go away. And of course, if you doubt anything that I'm saying, always remember that it would be very easy for Essex Police to prove that they didn't frame Jeremy Bamber, and the only reason that they don't release that information is the obvious, that they did actually frame him. So hopefully that's a useful episode and it gives you a better understanding. I will be talking about other witnesses in detail and other subjects that I hopefully help you understand. Thanks very much for listening, and till next time.